Hi, Mel.
Hi, Janelle.
Welcome to the Burning Business Podcast.
Welcome.
And we have Shannon with us. She is a family nurse practitioner with OnePeak.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We love.
Super excited to be here with you guys.
We're so excited to have you.
We thought Shannon would be the perfect first person to add to this podcast because, for one, she has owned many businesses. She has changed careers later in life.
Yes.
And she knows all about women, hormones, how to be in tune with your hormones. She knows all the ups and downs of business. And she's just a rock star.
She is us. She's one of us.
Yes,
We love that.
So Shannon, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm at OnePeak, as you said. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I do specialize in hormones and weight loss with a primary care focus. So I love that. But what you just mentioned, I think, is really a big part of who I am, is I did not get into this career until I was in my mid-40s. I actually had an accident in 2010 when I was working in real estate in a career that I really did not care for at all. It was very difficult for me. I was not great at it. And I had a couple clients that nearly broke me. They were very unhappy, so they fired me about every week. When my principal broker said I really should have been firing them.
Yes.
But I let it go on just because I was desperate to close a deal. And when you work in a commission-only business, it can be really crappy.
It's hard to fire people when...
It's hard to fire people when that's your only source of income.
Yeah.
You know, they're buying $1 million house and your commission is half of your income for
Right.
a year. At least that's what it was.
You just tell yourself you can keep pushing through it. It's fine.
Yep. And it's not. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
Putting up with things that you probably shouldn't be putting up.
Yeah.
So I had done that a lot in my life, personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And I think I just got to the point where I was like, I need to do something different. And so after my son graduated high school in 2012, I had just done a little shadowing of people, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, who were doing things that I wanted to do, which was helping people with their health and their vitality and their wellness.
Yeah.
And so I started going back to school. I actually started as a CNA in 2014.
All the way from the bottom.
All the way from the bottom.
You've done it all.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
No.
It was so good, though.
Good for you. Yeah.
My family
Builds character.
builds character.
Well, and then you have respect for everybody at every level.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that's the big thing is I develop respect. Well, I mean, I feel like I'm a respectful person, but I develop respect for people who were going through hard times and people who maybe we were seeing not at their best, right? Because a lot of the people that we see in businesses, they're not at their best, right? Their business may be struggling. They're not super healthy. They're overweight.
Yeah.
And that's what I was dealing with a lot. And just caring for people who couldn't care for themselves.
Right.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. And so I started out there, and then just over the last, that's been over a decade now.
That's crazy.
So as a CNA, I became an LPN, then I got my RN, then I kept going to school, finished my bachelor's degree in nursing, and then I got my nurse practitioner. So
That's awesome.
Nice.
Super
Good for
exciting.
you. Yeah.
super. It's great to be, in this place. It's good to be here with you two to talk about business and women's health, which are two things that I'm very passionate about.
Yes. We definitely talk about the ups and downs. And I'm sure you get a lot of people that just want that quick fix. So if you had someone like us who our adrenals may or may not be fatigued and our hormones may or may not be all over the place, how would you help us, I guess?
That's a great question. I think the one thing that we don't talk enough about, even when people come into our clinic, we're very much like, what's going on with you? We get a very small snapshot. We like to look at your labs. We like to look at what your hormones, all the things that could be affecting you, your adrenal function.
Yeah.
But the big thing that I don't think take enough time, and we can certainly talk about today, is the fact that people don't rest enough, right? They don't prioritize sleep. They don't prioritize. We're so sympathetic nervous system driven that we don't downregulate into our parasympathetic nervous system enough, which helps us regroup, right? Because those crappy days where we don't feel great. We've had a client who, people upset, people unhappy, especially when you own a business, right? You're dealing with, you're a problem solver, and the problem solving can be great if you're good at it, but you get tired too.
Yeah.
And so when we don't sleep enough, we don't eat well.
At all.
We don't exercise, right? Like we're not doing all the things that we really need to be doing, then it really shows up in our labs. And not sleeping enough, not exercising, and not eating well really does affect our hormones. Mm-hmm. So, certain times of the month, it can certainly make our hormones more imbalanced because we're not doing all the things that we should be doing. And prioritizing those things is difficult. Yeah. It can sometimes feel like a part-time job, prioritizing all those things.
Yeah. It's like I'm supposed to get 8 hours of sleep and I'm supposed to have this much water and I'm supposed to cold plunge. I'm supposed to sauna. I got to take all my vitamins and got to work out and I got to get a walk in. I got to, be in nature.
And then run our businesses.
And then I'm like, when my business been?
Yeah. Where's the family? Where's the business?
Homeschooling and I got to be a wife and I got date nights and I got to be friends, like how do you fit it all in?
That's a question.
Is there a prescription for more time?
I do feel like when you start to prioritize all those things, when you feel better, you have more energy.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of wanting to go home and hit the couch at night when you're done with your day, you have more energy to go out with friends or to go spend time with your family or vacation, like all the things that I didn't do when I was younger because I wasn't great at that. Yeah. I was not great at balancing family and work. I feel like work always came first, and that's probably one of my biggest regrets in life. Yeah. It's just that I feel like in business, you always want to be successful, so you're prioritizing that, but the reality is family has to come first. Yeah. Family and health have to come first.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we're right in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
Trying to balance it all. Because Janelle just started homeschooling. I've been homeschooling and we're like running our businesses. And like she said, trying to eat well and sleep and just do it all in one day. And it's chaotic.
The one thing that always goes first is the workout or the eating, right? Or the meal prepping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you don't have enough time.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's sometimes where we have to ask for help from our partners, in our families is like meal prepping together, right? Like I do a lot of I live alone, but, I wish when my kids were younger, I would have done more of that. Like a week, cook up all of our things that are, grass-fed beef, our chicken, our fish, all the protein we're going to eat that week. Yeah. And then having stuff available to make healthy salads and stuff like that to add to it, because that's really, it's making it easy. Yeah. Because it is hard when it's very chaotic to not go through Chick-fil-A. Someone brought Chick-fil-A into Peak here a couple months ago, and I smelled this smell, and I was like, I had never had it. Oh. And I was like, what is that smell?
Yeah. I've never had Chick-fil-A either.
Stop it.
Don't even eat it.
It's so bad for you.
It's the Lord's chicken.
It's not the Lord's chicken.
It's so bad for you. But don't do it.
Don't tell me it's bad. We love Chick-fil-A.
Because it would be so easy just to drive through Chick-fil-A because it's so good.
I literally tell my kids, what are we going to do for lunch today? And my 7-year-old daughter, she's like, why don't we just go to Chick-fil-A? I'm like, why don't we? That sounds great.
So good.
And then on the other end, she makes everything from scratch.
Okay, guys. Yeah. It's a balance.
She's one or the other.
Yes.
Scratch, Chick-fil-A.
It's
scratch.
Both of them delicious and good for me.
In balance.
Wow, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're always going for that easy fix, that's different, right? That's the hard part, is to prioritize and not always grab for Chick-fil-A.
Damn it.
I can see why. Yeah, you don't want to go there, because I ate it one time and I say I will never eat that again because it is like crack.
It is.
It really is. But you know what? I really treat myself on their salads, and I get
they have great salads.
I get an extra order of the chicken nuggets, for the protein.
Yeah.
Dump that on there. It's just so good.
It's so good. I know. Hard not to
Chick-fil-A, please sponsor us. They might. I'll call Medford.
Family.
I'll call the Medford branch.
Very family oriented. They are very family oriented.
We'll call them. We know someone there.
Do you guys know someone? Do you ladies know someone there?
No.
I do. They treat our firemen very well too.
Oh, really?
They do. And it's nice having, it's nice. I don't even work for the fire department. There's one at Garfield now. At my husband's station 13 by the skate park.
Nice.
So he's like, we're getting Chick-fil-A for lunch again.
Okay, they did open.
Must be nice.
I do like that they're very generous to first responders.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
they're great.
Oriented, right? They're not
They are. They're not open Sundays.
And
they actually are changing their ingredients. That I don't know who it is, because I don't know names.
See? It's probably RFK Jr. He's doing it.
It's not. It's the lady who is been doing stuff with Gary Brecka.
Okay.
Dark hair. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, she got Chick-fil-A to take some ingredients out of their chicken.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Yeah, so
we
they're
need
trying.
to support them.
They are trying.
Okay.
They're still not great, though. So
We could be on Chick-fil-A all day.
I love when I went to OnePeak that, okay, so I've always worked for the hospital in some fashion until I started this. And, you know, they always treat the heart attack. They always treat the aftermath. One amazing thing about OnePeak is they will give you the option of like, okay, maybe you do need thyroid medication, or maybe you do need blood pressure medication, or maybe you need an antidepressant, whatever it is. But they do take the time to check everything, and your hormones are not checked at a normal physician's office, which is just insane. And they also give you a plan to get off, and they also give you vitamins and other things, lifestyle changes, and they really do dig deep into your life, what's going on, and
Full
how
picture.
Yes, really treating you as a whole, and that's what I really love. But one thing I didn't grow up, for one, knowing about all these bad things in food, right? Like this is something I've deep dived in at an older age. But another thing is, as a woman, I thought I was supposed to hustle and grind just as much as a man. And we're really not, now that I'm digging into this and our cycles, and where we really need to be more in tune with where we're at. And so I don't know, what's your advice on all that now that you've dug so deep into hormones? Also, another thing, do you do men's hormones too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that's another thing too, is I think women are like, oh, my husband isn't motivated, and especially our age group.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that he's depressed, or he's just getting lazy, or he's not sexually driven anymore. But then a lot of guys our age have really low testosterone, and they don't even think to they don't need to be on antidepressants. They don't need to be on all these things. They just need to treat their testosterone.
You asked such a great question. I feel like it's very easy for us as women to talk about, you know, perimenopause, menopause, the things that change when we stop producing as much estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And as women, we need about 1/10 of the testosterone that men need, but we still need it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can certainly talk more about that. But just to touch upon men, I feel like andropause for men is when they stop producing as much testosterone and DHEA.
They don't talk about that.
They don't talk about it. Plus, I feel like our culture it's not great about talking about hormone imbalances for either for either gender. And I feel like for men, especially like a firefighter, right? There's this expectation that cops, firefighters, first responders, you know, and men in general, like they have to be masculine.
It's an ego thing.
It's an ego thing. And I feel like it's kind of unfortunate because we're doing them a disservice too by not talking about it.
Right.
Because you're absolutely correct. The signs of testosterone deficiency are fatigue, the lack of focus, insomnia, body pain, joint pain, muscle injuries, decreased libido, you know, sexual dysfunction, you know, difficulty maintaining an erection, you know, things that we don't talk about as much because guys maybe makes them feel bad, but
there's really nothing wrong with guys.
That's right.
They're perfect.
But their mood is improved.
Yeah.
Their libido's improved. Their muscle, especially guys who are working in careers like a firefighter, they have to maintain their muscle mass, right? To be able to do the jobs that they do. And testosterone plays a huge role in that for men and women, but definitely for men. So I think it's something to talk about. I think it needs to be more normalized, especially the sexual part of it too, because as you're going through life, you know, we want people to have healthy sexual relationships with their partners. And it's something that people come into Peak to talk about.
Yeah.
I actually love talking to people about their sexual function because I'll have I had a patient, my favorite story, I had a patient, she's in her mid-80s. Her husband passed away about 5 years ago. She's on hormones and she feels great. She looks great. Well, she came in, she's usually pretty tall, thin, attractive woman, but she came in, her makeup fully on, earrings on, like everything on point. And I just asked her what had changed. And she said, well, she had a new boyfriend. He was 90. She was having the best sex of her life.
Wow.
Which I think is awesome. But they both are working on their hormone balance.
Yeah.
It's never too late is what I'm saying.
Sure. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is.
Good for her.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for men and women, yes, we go through things. And I think it's important to talk about it and to to identify what those symptoms are that we're experiencing. I mentioned the ones for guys, for women, we talked a little bit earlier, but just women who are feeling irritable, moody, having PMS, certain times of the month where they're feeling unhinged, if you will. There's oftentimes reasons why. It's usually too much estrogen, not enough progesterone, and an imbalance of testosterone. And so we try at Peak to balance those hormones to help people feel better. We certainly look at labs, but we're not treating labs, right? We're treating a human.
Yeah.
And so we look at their labs and how they're feeling and try and come up with a plan that addresses those things. It's very custom, right? Because everyone's so different.
I remember getting my hormones checked by Whitney.
Yes.
And her and I go way back. So I felt super comfortable telling her, like, everything is off with me. Like, I can't lose the weight that I'm trying to lose right now. I'm working out like crazy, eating right. I was a macro coach at the time. I'm like, I know what to do. Right. I'm doing all the things and nothing's working. I don't have a sexual desire, like all these things. She does my labs, looks at them, and she's like, oh, honey, you are running on E on everything. I think my testosterone was like 7.
Oh, yeah.
My cortisol was 3.
Oh.
Like everything, all my levels were near 0. And she's like, okay, so we're going to fix you right up. Don't worry. I'm like, well,
we'll tune you right up.
Tune you right up. I'm like, well, that would make a lot of sense. Like, I'm not depressed. I don't hate my family or my life. Like, I just don't have all the things I need to do the daily functions. Like,
yeah. And people ask me all the time why I love to put women on testosterone.
Yeah.
That is, you just nailed it.
Yeah.
Women who are not feeling their best sexually, they have decreased libido.
Yeah.
And it's a change for them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're feeling more fatigued. Maybe they've lost muscle mass.
Yeah.
They're not working out. They're feeling kind of soft. Those are all the things and that we want to get women on testosterone because they feel way better, especially when you're in single digits.
Yeah.
I mean, we're dosing women up to 60 to 150.
Yeah.
If you're in single digits, you're going to feel like crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. It was just my testosterone and all that.
Low E. You were.
Yes. I'm like, is that bad? And she's like, yeah, that's kind of bad. That's a bad number. I'm like, okay. Well.
Yeah.
But you feel better now.
Yes, I feel better now. It's literally a little dissolvable lozenge that I take every day. Nothing crazy.
I didn't know they had lozenges.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing that we keep.
There was like pellets and shots.
I
and
tried the pellets one time.
Yep.
Pellets were okay.
I would say pellets are great. It's nice. Pellets are nice for people who are really busy.
Yeah.
You put the pellets in there for guys every 6 months, women about every 4 months. It's a nice way, but there's other ways.
Yeah.
Lozenges are my second favorite way because they tend to, you put them in the buccal or buccal area. They dispense really nicely.
Yeah.
It's easy to take. They're affordable. Then we have creams and we do have injections. And I prescribe more injections for women now than I ever did before.
Really?
Microdosing of testosterone for women. But it's different because you do have to inject.
My husband would have to do that for me. He does injections for himself for testosterone, but I
can't do it. I was doing the glutathione injections and I just do the liposomal. Yeah, because I just can't do it.
I can't put
and
myself.
if I'm not going to do it, then I'm not going to take it.
Yeah.
I love liposomal forms of things.
Okay, what's that?
Ooh, it's like the fat, so it absorbs easier. I just got NAD,
awesome,
curcumin, and glutathione all in the liposomal version. We have it all now.
You have it. You
yep.
For you.
It's all now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
NAD is, I'm doing like 200 milligrams a day.
Awesome.
It is like mental focus.
So
it's
NAD
great.
is great. I mean, they say it's for every cell in the body, right? It's for anti-aging, helps with sleep, helps with so many different things. I do NAD injections once a week.
Yeah.
But the best way, injections and liposomal forms are pretty comparable. I like liposomal forms because they're more affordable.
Yeah.
And they're a great option. So
they're just easy to take.
Offering that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's nice.
It's great, right? That works with our liver. Our liver is a master detoxifier. If that's not functioning, we're not going to feel great either. People who are drinking too much alcohol, taking medications that are hard on the liver. There's many things that can be hard on the liver.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome that you're offering that because glutathione is amazing.
It's great. Yes. Definitely. That's one thing I love about you guys, OnePeak U, is you are so well versed in all the things, right? Pharmaceuticals. but you also know vitamins, you know hormones, you just know the whole spectrum. And I just love it.
And I love, like you said earlier, that prescriptions are not the first thing you guys go to. It's always like a supplement or a lifestyle change, not let me just write you a script for this and send you on your way. Like no more Band-Aids. It's a whole fix. And I love that part.
I love that you ladies mentioned that, because when I first started at Peak, Whitney and I were talking, we had read some of the Google reviews. And one of the bad Google reviews was, I hate that they recommend all these supplements for me. I was like, well, okay, let's dissect that, right?
Yeah.
I have this sheet. If you come to see Whitney and myself, we have these sheets and we love to use them because it will tell you all the deficiency symptoms in each thing. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, different things that we prescribe, vitamin D, and why we prescribe those supplements, because it's a great way to supplement with things like, for example, a lot of people who are depressed, right? They're just lacking vitamin D and B.
Yeah.
And sometimes just boosting those two things. Or we have mood supplements that have what's called 5-HTP, which is a precursor to serotonin, helps build your own natural serotonin instead of taking like an SSRI.
Yeah.
So it's boosting your body's own natural neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
We try and do that. And so I always like to tell people, hey, this is why we're suggesting this, right?
Yeah.
We're not just arbitrarily trying to sell you things.
Right.
Or we want you to feel better.
Yeah.
We use supplements like what you're saying here with the NAD and the glutathione.
Yeah.
Like we want to support people's bodies, and we try and do that holistically.
Yeah.
Before going to prescription.
I think there's just not enough education on that method.
Nailed it.
Rather than like, here's an antidepressant. Okay, well, I'm going to take that. I'm going to be hooked on that now. I'm not going to be able to feel like myself without it.
Yeah.
Getting off is going to be a whole nother issue.
Right.
Side effects are a whole nother issue.
The sexual side effects.
Yeah.
The weight gain.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
And then you have another 10 issues.
Yeah.
Instead of just taking your supplements.
And I'm sure you have the whole spectrum of clients. Like I'm sure when you meet with a client, you know that person who wants a magic pill and you're able to give them the magic pill, right? The magic pharmaceutical pill. It might not be so magical, but like we have a mutual client. Her hormones were all off and she wasn't comfortable taking hormone replacement. So she came in here, she did cold therapy, and now her hormones are great.
It's amazing.
So you guys are able to work with them in referring out. Also, another thing is I have to take a vitamin. It's not, you guys have a ton of great vitamins. OnePeak has I sell things here too. And I don't sell it to necessarily make money. I sell it because I believe in it, I love it, and I want it to help you. And same with you guys. But I've been recommended many vitamins that you don't even sell.
Right.
So it's not like
I know.
There's
it's hard. Yes, it's still a business at the end of the day.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I think your heart, my heart, we're all in this to help people feel better.
Yeah.
And help them have success and feel good and, good about themselves. The patient or the client that you're referring to, I think what really speaks to why she feels so good is because she takes good care of herself.
Yes.
She prioritizes sleep. She prioritizes nutrition. She does prioritize cold plunging and sauna and things like that. And sometimes just shifting our focus to that will balance our hormones in healthy people. And healthy people who are of the age where their hormones are still producing, their hormones will produce better for them when they're doing all that. And that's what she did. She's healthy. She takes great care of herself. She may be perimenopausal, but she's feeling pretty good because she's doing all those things for herself.
Right.
That's amazing.
It is. But it's what I tell people is the work is done outside of our clinics, right? People can come in here to your wellness and vitality center. They can come to Peak. They can go to these things, but if they don't do the work, it's not gonna make a difference. Right.
Exactly. Awesome.
Got to put the work in.
I know, but nobody wants to do that.
I don't even want to do that.
Who wants to go to the gym and do all that?
So once you start doing that, once you start eating better, sleeping better, exercising, you do start to feel better. And then it becomes a habit. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
As Americans, we're so used to wanting the quick fix that we have to put habits in place that will help us feel better. But creating those new habits can be difficult for people, especially when you're balancing all the things that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Ooh, I have a fun question for you that I get asked about all the time. Okay, so we know when we have a cycle and we have 4 different phases, and you should share your cycle with your husband so that he knows how to treat you. Okay, we got that down, right? Most people. Now we're premenopausal. Okay, do you still have a cycle? And what does that look like?
You mean with your
Perimenopausal, yes.
So what happens is as our hormones start to shift, right? Average age of perimenopause for women is about 45. So some women a decade before, some women a decade later. So there's a huge range there. And again, it comes back to listening to your body, what symptoms you're experiencing. But to answer your question, yes, it changes all the time, right? As our cycles, the first part of our cycle, we know that estrogen is surging. The latter part, progesterone is kicking in. Estrogen, one of our providers calls estrogen the bitch hormone, but we want estrogen. Estradiol is important for our pelvic floor, our skin, our vaginal health, our sexual health. People who don't have enough estrogen have painful sex. There's lots of things that happen.
Yeah.
You need progesterone to balance that estrogen. If progesterone is not producing at certain parts of the cycle, you're progesterone deficient, you will feel unhinged. You will feel irritable, moody, have mood swings, have abnormal bleeding, like breast tenderness. Like these are all the things that happen when you don't have enough progesterone. And so I think it's important to see kind of where you're at in your cycle. Yeah. And to see, hey, do I have a deficiency in my cycle? Am I producing too much estrogen, which leads to a lot of those symptoms I mentioned, or not enough progesterone? And it's that imbalance that we kind of try and fix. But everybody's so different. And so we really do have to look at your labs and then talk to you and kind of see like what, where you're at. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Go down a rabbit hole.
No.
We love a rabbit hole.
No, I love rabbit holes. But like, do you still have like a cycle of hormone imbalance?
Yes.
And then it goes back? So like, does that make sense?
So when do your cycles stop? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Like, do you still have like a luteal phase and a follicular phase? Okay.
You do.
It's just harder to figure it out unless you're like journaling and really being in tune.
And this is the great thing about technology these days, as you're knowing, like, look at us here and technology, all this awesome stuff.
Look at us.
Look at us. I mean, look at you, ladies. But there's trackers, right? There's all these
trackers. There's
planners.
Trackers. There's all these things.
Yeah.
And I think women, there's so many tools now to track and to kind of see what your hormones are doing. But to answer your question, yes, they're always changing. And as we age, what will start to happen, instead of having a 28-day cycle where you have your typical menstrual, you'll have your estrogen building up, progesterone cycle. You will stop having that as frequent. Like it'll go from going 28 days to like 45 days to 60 days.
Okay.
It starts to stretch out because you're producing less of these hormones.
Got it.
For some women, they may have bleeding because their estrogen is now unopposed from progesterone because they're not producing progesterone. And so that leads to symptoms. So it varies. But for everyone, it's so different. Sometimes it can be based on genetics. It can be based on lack of sleep, how we're taking care of ourselves. Are we overweight? Like all those things play a role in it too.
Yeah.
Do you see any correlation with the perimenopause with business owners? Or
question.
Ooh, what do you mean by that?
Like, are more women business owners going into perimenopause earlier than women who don't have businesses?
Yeah.
Great question. I don't know the research on that.
Can you start tracking your patients, please?
Can you track them for me?
I will say this, though. I think what you mentioned earlier, the hustle and grind.
Yeah.
Like, I think women who are out there hustling and grinding and not taking care of themselves are going to go into perimenopause earlier.
Yeah.
Their hormones are going to stop producing as much. So I think the ticket, for what you ladies are modeling and what I try and model for women, in my age, in my late 50s, is I want women to take care of themselves so that their hormones are producing for them as long as they can, because the benefits of having hormones on board are much greater. And we like the client you mentioned earlier, she's taking such exceptional care of herself.
So
her hormones are working well for her.
Right.
And I think that's the thing, is we want those.
But even she has imbalances in her hormones.
Yes.
And she takes extremely good. I mean, she is like the cleanest person you will ever meet in her eating and all of her things. So, I mean, it still can happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think our job is to give them options at peak, right?
Yeah.
That's what we try and do. But just to kind of answer your question about just the hormones shifting and changing,
Yeah.
I think that's why you have to check your hormones, right?
Check yourself.
You have to check yourself.
Yeah.
Because you'll wreck yourself. Well, people do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, right? They just let it go. I think that's a big thing. Women are out there hustling and grinding and they're not taking care of themselves and they let things go.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wake up one day and go, how am I all of a sudden not the weight I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I can't focus like I used to.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I see happening.
Yeah. When did we have a shift in, because I feel like our ancestors were really in tune with their hormones, and then somewhere it got lost, especially in my mom's, because I wasn't raised to know anything about my cycle, hormones, nothing. And then now it's kind of coming back.
Did you say how old you are?
I'm 38.
38.
I'm 33.
33.
She's baby.
Okay.
So your moms are like how old? In their 60s?
65, yeah.
65?
50 something.
Yeah. See,
52.
your mom's my age. I'm 50. I'm going to be 57.
Did you grow up learning about your hormones?
God, no.
Yeah.
But
So where
my
did it
son
get
is
lost?
31, and I feel like we talk about it. Like we talk about these things, right? It changed, I think,
I love it.
from my generation to yours,
Mm-hmm.
and it's changed. And
Thank goodness.
it needed to change.
It
thank
did.
goodness.
Yeah.
My mom never did talk to me about this stuff either. But
Yeah.
the problem with that is the women now, right? HPV,
Mm-hmm.
we have all these bad things that kind of develop from not talking about safe sex practices, consistent condom use. These are the things I talk to women about every day.
Yeah.
But also like our cycles and our periods. My mom never talked to me about that.
Me neither.
I love how we call it like holistic medicine or biohacking, but that's all they used to do before pharmaceuticals.
They were just in tune with themselves.
Yeah. Before pharmaceuticals, I mean, they didn't call it biohacking. They just called it healthy living. They just called it living.
They were living. They were living.
But now,
that's a great question though. When did that happen?
Probably when they introduced soy milk.
you know what I actually heard is it was in the 60s. 60s or 80s. It came out that the tobacco companies, that it was causing cancer. And so then those tobacco companies actually bought out all these big food industries. And then that's when they started putting MSGs and all these bad things in our food, because if they couldn't get us addicted to tobacco anymore, they would get us addicted to food.
For sure.
I think it was the 80s.
I was in high school in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I think that was.
I think that's when it was. And that's when the food started crashing.
Is that when the vaccine schedule started going up too?
No, that is actually in like 1906.
Oh.
So that's when they came out, and that's when they started making med school was back then. So really all med schools are back to like 1906.
Holy crap.
And that it was all based on pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals funded all of these medical schools, and that's from the vaccines. But the food pyramid was actually made by these tobacco industries.
Crazy. Who don't have our best interest. Wild.
And I think
Wild.
you have to ask that whenever you're looking at medical stuff
Mm-hmm.
and food and all this is who's driving it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I think Big Pharma unfortunately drives a lot of things that we don't want, right? I think
Yeah.
a lot of things, I think it goes back to, overall health, prioritizing sleep, nutrition. These things don't cost things, right? They're
Yeah.
Big
Crazy.
Pharma's not making money off of,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
that. But I think as for our own health and our family's own health, we do have to prioritize.
Mind you, being on blood pressure medication
Yes.
until you can start working out again, and like it being like the starting point is totally fine. I think, I don't know about you, but like, okay, let's put you on blood pressure medication so we can get you working out again and then get your blood pressure down and start changing your lifestyle. Yeah.
And
Depression, same thing, right?
we have lots of patients who work for the sheriff's office, the police department. I have one patient in particular. He is healthy, takes great care of himself, but he has horribly and difficult to control blood pressure. And it's his genetics. And there's nothing he can do about that.
Sure.
Yes, he can eat well, exercise, do all the right things, but he's always going to have high blood pressure.
Right.
And so in that sense, we need the medicine.
Especially with his career.
So pharmaceuticals, hospitals aren't bad. Like, I don't want to sit here and say like they are
No, of
bad.
course.
There's just a time and a place for them.
Yeah.
And
balance.
Yes. It's not
I like that.
You don't need to go to the emergency room for everything.
No.
And we need to keep people out of our emergency rooms because
They are packed.
They are packed. The people who work in those, we have a lot of those people as patients, respiratory therapists, nurses. They're overrun. I tell people all the time, you should only go to the ER if you are having a heart attack, a stroke, you've broken a bone, like you've got something really serious going on. See your doctor, take care of your health ahead of time. Go to urgent care. We have great urgent cares here in the Valley. We see our own urgent care patients at Valley Immediate Care. I see Brent Kell walking his dogs every morning. I think we have a lot of great people in this community taking care of people's health. But whatever we can do to keep people out of the ERs.
And every time I've gone on to OnePeak's website to schedule a Zoom or something to meet, just to talk to somebody, there's always an opening within that day. Yeah.
Peak works hard to do that, to make sure that we have enough.
You work hard.
We work hard to do that. Just like you, right? You're always out there. You're trying to hustle. Yeah. But find balance, as Mo says. It's balance.
Mo says it, but Mo doesn't do it.
It's hard.
It is.
There's tons of things I know I should do that I may not always prioritize. But I think part of it being, when you said earlier, just being real and authentic is being honest with ourselves about where we're at. Yeah. Because we try and meet our clients or patients where they're at, but we also have to do that for ourselves. Yeah. And I think that's, when you're talking, this is what gets me kind of choked up, is when I look back on my own life about where I've been and where I'm at now, it really took me being very honest with myself about how unhappy I was in my career. I didn't like my weight. I didn't feel good. I didn't like my relationship. Like, I feel like you have to be honest with yourself about where you're at, or you will never be able to change.
And want that change for yourself.
True. Correct. Yeah. And be willing to accept the fact that it's going to be some hard work.
Yeah.
Right. People who I have, we're talking about blood pressure. I have a patient who's a friend who's lost about 125 pounds. He's off of his blood pressure medicine. We did put him on thyroid and hormones, but I think him too, just realizing, hey, I've hit this wall. I don't like where I'm at in life. I feel good about myself and I want to make these changes. But the work really for him was outside of what we do in these clinics, right? Or these buildings, like people doing the work outside. Yeah. They got to put the work in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say.
It's going to be uncomfy. I think that's the thing too. People, especially in this day and age, nobody likes to be uncomfortable, whether it's like building your business or getting in shape or literally anything. People just don't like being uncomfortable, so they don't want to do it.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Getting out of your comfort zone.
It's definitely hard to sell my career cold therapy. Nobody wants to do that.
Really?
Yeah. They're like, give me a hormone pill. Give me a, pain medication.
I don't want to be cold.
I hear so.
She doesn't want to be cold.
But I hear a lot of people on, I see a lot of people UFC fighters, people who are specimens of humans, right?
Yeah.
They do that. They kind of plunge.
Even my own dad, he's like, he could use it. I mean, everybody could use it for whatever reason or another, but he's like, does it really work? I'm like, oh yeah, I've just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a business that I don't fully believe in. I'm like, no, it literally changed my life.
Yeah.
But it's not comfortable, is all I'm meaning to say.
Yeah, that's the exact point. It's not comfortable. But to that point, I hate being cold. I've been hanging out with Janelle for 2 years now. 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
I hate
3.
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Time flies.
I know.
I hate being cold. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll get in there. But if I don't want to do 3 minutes, you'll stop it, right? And she's like, yeah, sure. And I get in there and I'm just...
And you do it.
Freezing myself to death. And then afterwards, it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. I stayed in the whole time.
Good job. Yeah.
Got out, survived is the point. It was uncomfy for 3 minutes. And she tries to talk to me while I'm in there. And I'm just, don't talk to me. Just let me get through this.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel so much better. I took a nap the first time I did it. I don't nap. I have way too much shit to do to nap. I passed out until dinner.
And did you wake up feeling refreshed?
Yeah.
It's a big detox.
Awesome. Yeah, detox, which for me, I need because I think this was before I started making all my own breads. But I think everybody can just use a detox 100%. From everything that's going on and everything. So just being uncomfy for 3 minutes, that's it.
Yep.
And then you feel better.
Understand. So for the cold plunge, so detoxing, what are the other, what are some of the main benefits that you...
So what it's really doing is just resetting your system. So it's releasing norepinephrine. You're getting your body into fight or flight. So you're instantly out of pain. It lowers your cortisol. And so when people have either reversed adrenal function or cortisol, where they're like high at night and low in the morning, it'll flip it back, which is really cool.
We talk about that every day at Peak, how to flip that back.
Yeah.
Sleeping, like things like that. But it's good to know that it will help.
Yeah. Our client actually out there right now, she had that. So she did cryo for a month and it reversed it back, which is really nice to see.
That would be amazing for night shift people.
Yes, because they're all thrown off. But what's another thing is a lot of the controversy with adrenal and cold plunge is they're trying to say, well, your body's already in a heightened stress situation. We shouldn't stress it more. However, when you're not producing cortisol the way that you're supposed to, that's our biggest anti-inflammatory in our body. And now it's not working. It's not attaching to those cells. So when you get into the cold, you're giving your body a break. You're getting that inflammation down. So, and as you know, inflammation is like the leading cause of everything.
I talk about inflammation
all the time. Yeah.
But it's this eating anti-inflammatory, right?
Right.
It's exercising to reduce inflammation.
Yep.
It's managing stress to reduce inflammation. It's using things like cold plunge and saunas and things like that to go from that fight or flight into the parasympathetic, which is what you did. You went in there, you put yourself in the sympathetic, detoxed, and then your body went into the parasympathetic, which I think is so cool because sometimes it's hard for people to get into parasympathetic mode, but it sounds like that kind of pushed you towards that, which is awesome. I love hearing that because that's the piece that people have a hard time with is getting into that rest and digest, which is what does decrease inflammation too.
Right. Yeah. And it helps with your weight and stuff too when you're sleeping right. That for me, doing the cryo, which I hate.
Did you help with weight?
It helped with my weight. I slept so good every night. I wasn't waking up freaking out. And for me, my husband's a fireman, so I don't sleep when he's gone because I'm so nervous I'm going to have to save 4 children in a house fire or something. Someone's going to break in and steal us. So I don't sleep when he's gone. But that's just my anxiety. But doing the cryo, it knocked me out. So I slept so deep, so good. Where I usually wouldn't. And I don't have to take anything to do it. I'm not taking melatonin.
Right.
I'm not taking Ambien. I
so nice.
literally just suffer for 3 minutes and then I sleep so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you do it before you go to bed?
It's also the brown fat, though, that helps with the metabolism.
That too. Yeah.
So you're increasing brown fat. So I love to, OnePeak's marketing person thinks I'm hilarious because I bring this up all the time.
About your brown fat?
Yeah, because you guys have a really cool test that tells your metabolic age.
Yes.
Yeah, so my metabolic age was higher when I first started, and now I'm 22 years old.
Good job.
I love that.
Thank you.
I know.
So I love
Mine said
talking
I was
about
19.
that. What? Well, you are much younger than
So
me.
it turns out I don't need cryo anymore.
Are you just going to be like 12, 10, 9?
Call me Benjamin Button.
You're going to be 0.
Yeah. Same with my cortisol.
Hey, but this is the thing I say to people, though. The very thing that got you there, you got to keep it up.
I know.
Keep it up because it got you there to your 19.
I think that's with everything, though. I mean, you start to feel better. You got rid of gluten and you're like, oh, I feel better. Now I'm going to start adding gluten back in my life. No, if it's like, oh, I feel better, so that's why I stopped working out. No, like cold therapy, hormones, vitamins.
Well, this, my big thing now I'm talking to patients about, which I probably should stop, but have you guys seen the new show, the new thing on Netflix, the guy, Brian Johnson, who did the whole Don't Die? Have you watched it?
No.
Okay. Well, there's a new show that came out on Netflix in the last couple of weeks. It's about this guy. His name's Brian Johnson. He was, these are just like middle-aged, overweight, unhappy. He was a Mormon guy, just not happy. And he had a big tech company, had this money. He basically took his money and invested it into himself. And so he's extreme. Like his whole philosophy, he's extreme. He does all the things, supplements, hormones, cold plunge. He does it all. PRP. I mean, everything that you can imagine.
Amazing.
He does it. And he doesn't even look like the same person. But to me, what he really talks about is what we're talking. Prioritizing health, prioritizing sleep, prioritizing wellness, like doing all these things. But I love it because he really does speak to how important it is to prioritize all these things and put habits and how it's consistent habits are what make a difference.
And how he can
So
look like a different person from just prioritizing himself.
And feel like a different person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of become a movement. And again, it is extreme. I'm not like promoting it or anything. I just think that some of what he is doing speaks to the importance of what we're talking about. Consistency and habits, prioritizing health and wellness, and then being able to also, I think, put our health first and let some of the bullshit go that goes on in our daily life. Because it's really easy as a business owner, as someone who's trying to help people in your business, trying to help people build their own business and support these people. You have to look at people and know that we all have our own bullshit.
Yeah.
And being able to get out of our own way is sometimes one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it takes humility to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved how you said about the 90-year-old guy and all the things. Like, I have a guy in here, he's stacked and he is like 80 something and he's like, I'm changing to the carnivore diet.
Good for him.
And he's doing his cold therapy and he's working out. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I want to live I want to play with my grandchildren. And we shouldn't just give up.
Yeah.
Life.
Never.
We have one life to live.
That's right.
Live it to its fullest.
Right. And the people who are doing that in their 70s and 80s, those are people that I really look at and think.
Yeah.
I always use my dad as an example. My dad is, I always figure out he's 20 years older than me, so he's 77. The healthiest person I know. Not really on any medicines. He's never gone to a gym, but what he loves to do is he loves to move. He loves to get out and move his wood piles, and he loves to eat out of his garden. He's super, goes to bed about the same time, gets up about the same time, can sleep anywhere. Consistency.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Love that.
And just taking care of himself. I think it's over the course of our lifetime that we reap the benefits later in life, but it's never too late to start.
Well, so you got to find a balance. Like, you don't have to hustle and grind all the time. And then also don't retire.
That's right.
Like, you can't retire either. Like,
but that is such our society too. Like, work. And then you get to 50, whatever. And it's like, now you can stop. You can stop doing everything.
But they're both so bad for you.
Totally.
Like, hustling is bad for you. And retiring is bad for you. Like, we are really supposed to continue, like you just said, like your dad. It's like, we're supposed to continue to have a purpose and to have consistency and get out in the world. And
it's good for our brain.
Yes.
Too, for people who are still working. I have patients who are in their 70s still working, feeling great. I have one patient who works at the hospital in hospice. She's in her 80s. Like, she's not ready to retire yet.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Like, keep going. You're doing great. Like, she feels good as long as she's, able to do it. I think it's awesome to do that, but to do it with balance, right? You don't have to work 40 hours, 50, 60 hours. I mean, most of us don't even work normal work weeks anymore.
Right.
I think that's part of it too, is we need to just step back kind of from our work schedule and say it's okay to work 40 hours a week and spend time with our family. Enjoy life.
That's okay.
What's that like? We'll do that. We'll do that today.
Yeah.
Are you doing that today? You're going to go home after this, right? And be with your family?
That's right.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, well, this was so lovely.
This was really lovely.
I know.
I could talk about this all the time.
I was just going to say this all the time.
We could be here all night.
These are the things.
Forget our families.
Well, I'm so proud of you for your son graduated and then you decided to just switch careers.
I decided to get my life together.
Yeah. You didn't.
I'm one of those people too.
You didn't retire. You made a new life.
I've had like 20 careers.
I love it.
We love
People
that.
who know me know
You take life by the horns.
But you know what? I think it's also
That's
doing what
great.
you're passionate about, because most of
Are you happier now?
I feel like I'm happier, but I also sometimes have to pinch myself and say, is this really happening?
Aww.
I also feel like I have to tell my own self to stop and enjoy it,
Yeah.
because it's really easy sometimes just to get hung up in that, like
The climbing,
And-
I want to do more. I'm going to do this. And
Yes.
instead of just, this is good. I'm good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also feel like what keeps me going, probably the same as you two ladies, is my patience, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's times when I'm tired, I'd rather just stay home and chill, but it's my patience that get me out of bed. It's the people that I know that I'm helping. Same as you here, I'm sure. You ladies know that you're helping people. You're helping them feel better, be more successful. I think those are the same things that get me out of bed.
Do you think that you have a more balance now? Or are you still working on balance? Is that a consistent?
I'm always working on it.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who who is balanced that's not always working on balance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even the owner of our company, Nisha, I feel like she travels all the time.
She's a hustler.
She seems like a hustler.
She's a hustler, but like today we're like, someone was trying to get a hold of her, like she's on vacation.
Yeah.
For her.
She's really good at like unplugging and taking vacation and going doing those things. I need to do a better job of that.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I'm like what you said. I'm that person who's probably going to work till I'm 70 because I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love helping people. But I think it's also finding what we're passionate about that keeps us wanting to go to work every day.
Yeah.
Because I do hear a lot of people say, hey, I have a guy who worked for the Forest Service. He was miserable in his job.
Yeah.
His blood pressure was out of control. He was overweight. Since he's retired, he's lost a bunch more weight. He's off his blood pressure medicine. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's great.
Yeah.
Like, it's also being able to pursue at whatever age is going to make you happy and feel good. You know,
I know. I love when people say, like, what are you going to be in 5 years? What are you going to do? I'm like, I have no clue who I'm going to meet tomorrow.
Wherever the wind blows.
Yeah. Well, you can reinvent yourself anytime. And if you start losing passion for the things that you're doing, just, you have one life.
Pivot.
Live it to its fullest.
Pivot.
That's good.
Pivot.
It's never a failure. I think people think when they switch careers, like you did, right, that you didn't fail. You were super brave to restart on your new passion. And
I think my family kind of thought that, though. I mean, I look
For
back
sure.
and think with some of the stuff my family said to me, like my mom, like, really, you're going to be a CNA? Like, I remember my mom saying that to me. She'd probably deny it if she heard it.
She's like, I would never, first of all.
I would never, exactly.
Yeah.
But she did.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it was a little humbling to be in my mid going on to late 40s, you know, working in a career with people half my age.
Yeah.
But you could have stuck with it and been so unhappy.
I know.
And you were so brave to make that
I think
switch.
that's the thing is we can all do something. We can all make changes in our life at any age. You just have to be brave enough, willing enough. And also I think humility.
Yeah.
Right?
Put your pride aside.
It was very humbling to do a lot of those things because it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty. But I think sometimes just being able to say, hey, I can do this and making the effort to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Because it is what you make. Just like what you're saying about your business here. Like it is what you're making it. What you ladies both are doing.
Yeah.
It's what you make of it.
Yep.
And reinventing it all the time for yourself, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. For sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me, ladies. This is really cool.
This
I
is
commend you
amazing.
both for what you're doing. It's great. I
Thank
love all your stuff.
you.
Same to you.
It's so catching. It's very engaging.
Thanks for being our first guest.
Yes.
Wow,
How
I did
exciting.
not know I was a first guest.
You are.
I'm glad she didn't tell me. I was freaked out.
You know, some people we've been asking around.
Oh my gosh. The men.
Who wants to join us?
The men?
The men say no.
The men say,
They say
Yeah.
we're intimidating.
Can you tell everyone that this is not intimidating?
really?
I don't even want to
Yeah.
say on air where
These
we are at.
awesome. I
But
think it would be great to have.
it's
them.
easy. Yeah.
What kind of men are you trying to get on?
Just like business
owner
owners.
men.
Oh.
Yeah.
We just don't
what
want
kind
people
of
to
men
think.
are you looking for?
I know. We just don't want people to think that we're only women. Like
I gotcha.
Yeah.
men.
We're all about all the business.
Yeah, men own amazing businesses, and I want to hear about their struggles too. Like it's hard for men to own businesses too. It's hard to deal with their hormones and their shifts and their thing. I loved it.
Thank you for
It was
answering
great.
all of our questions and being so candid with us.
Yes, yeah, it was awesome. I love this. I could do this every day.
Isn't it fun?
Good job, ladies.
Thank you so much for
And
having
thank you,
us.
ladies, for being inspiration to other women who
Thank
are out there
you.
trying to make it work. Right. I think that's the thing is women need to have inspiration. Right. From people who are out there doing it, following their dreams and creating these things, because what you've created, Mo, and what you created, Janelle, these were your own creations, right? These were not things that were just handed to you or that you took over from somebody else. They're things that you created. So good for you for being creative and following that and pursuing it.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
It's
Very
funny because
inspiring.
both of us are kind of just like we care if we offend somebody, obviously, but we just don't really care. Like when I ask people to be on here,
That's awesome.
people, I didn't realize the amount of people who are intimidated to talk about who they are and where they came from.
Mhm.
And that's interesting.
Like they're embarrassed of it?
Yeah, it's like a fear.
Oh.
And I didn't realize that was a thing.
Like some people are so used to being like curated
Mm.
and only giving what they feel is like approved on their part.
Yes.
And her and I come down here, we're just bullshitting all day, and we're just
they're doing that because
and people say like, "Oh, that's so brave," and I was like, "Really?" Or it's just what's the word? I don't know, an idiot or
I know. I'm like,
Filter.
maybe
It's
we
like-
should be more nervous. We're
I know,
never
I was like,
nervous.
maybe we should be more nervous.
relate to that though, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
people don't relate. This is what I realized is, my whole life, my mom always was like, suck it in, stand up straight. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And here we are.
And that thinking is not good
No.
because then we are taught
It's not real.
It's not real.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also taught to be perfectionists. And I think the biggest thing that I had to break in my life to get to where I am today is breaking that I don't have to be perfect. I
Yeah.
have to be real. I have to be honest and genuine and
Yeah.
also be honest with myself first, right? That when things aren't working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people relate to that.
Yeah.
People relate to genuine, this sucks.
The struggle.
And I'm
It's a
sure
struggle.
from your patients too, you probably see the full spectrum. People that make $30,000 a year to $3 million a year, and they all have the same problems. And that's really, I think, a good place for you to be in to get that perspective every day. Because I think people being on social media or even listening to our podcast being like, oh, they're just so brave or whatever. It's just be real because we all have the same problems. We're human and we're here on this earth just creating our lives. And yeah, not to be fearful.
I love that. Well, you don't want to live in fear.
No.
Yeah.
You want to live in a way that is not fearful so that you can pursue the things that are important.
Yeah.
Thanks, ladies. Awesome. This is great.
Well, see you next time on the Dirty Business Podcast.
Perfect.